Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. In the last class, we talked about different application softwares or different types of software. So today, inshallah, we will start with the next part, that is the legacy software. In fact, the legacy softwares are those that have been built in the past. For example, one software was built 20 years ago, another software was built 30 years ago, some other software was built 10 years ago. So the time passes and we have so many softwares. Every organization has its own software. So those old softwares that are still being used are known as legacy software. So whenever you have an older software, there is always a need of change. You need to change it to make it compatible with the current needs, compatible with the current technologies. So today we are going to study why it is required to be changed, why we need to change it. So the question is, why must it change? If it is a legacy software, so when there is a need to change it, number one, software must be adapted to meet the needs of new computing environment or technology. I can give you an example. If we have a software, our organization has a software that was built back in 1990, 1985 somewhere. So at that time there was no internet, there was no concept of websites, right? So as now we have that software that is working on a desktop computer. So maybe we have to enhance it, we have to make it adaptable with the current technology. Now you all are using the mobile phones, you all are using the websites. So what I need is, I want to make that desktop application, the application running on a single machine, to bring it on a website so that my customers may get access to it, my own staff may get access to that website. So that means, in fact, when there is computing environment change or a technology change, then we need to change the software. So what will I do? For my desktop software, I will make a website. Maybe for today, I will make a mobile application. So I will get access to my software with current technology, with current environment. So this is the first thing that we consider. If there is a change in environment or technology, then we make the change in the older or the legacy software. The second point, software must be enhanced to implement new business requirement. Enhance mean to add something. So say, for example, I had a software that was built again somewhere in 1990 when we did not have email concept. Very simple example, email concept. Now you just tell me, sir, can we have email added in our software? So I'll ask you to enhance the software. Similarly, you just tell me, sir, we have the security concern, so we must have some thumb impression recognition system in our software. So I will ask you to enhance the software, to add up in the software, so that our software must have the login with the thumb impression. It must have the email, it must have the image of the employee, so we can enhance it as per our business requirement, as per our working environment. The third one is, software must be extended to make it interoperable with other more modern systems or databases. Now check, if I have a software that runs that has a database with some old database, for example, now we have again still very good MS Access database that is good for the small systems. But say if we have an older version of MS Access and now I want to take it to the Oracle, or I want to make my system in such a manner that it can interact with another system that has the database with the Oracle. So those two software, my software and my other department software, will be able to talk to each other. those will be interoperable, that my version of the database management system is different and the other department or organization is using the SQL server or something. So I will extend my software so that it may work with it. And same comes with the operating system, that I want to extend my software so that it may work in that environment. And number 4 is software must be re-architected to make it viable within a network environment. Now listen one thing, as in the past the older software, the legacy softwares, just 45 years ago we did not have so many networks, right? So in that case all our softwares were standalone. So if now we want to use those softwares in a network environment, then in that case we will have to re-architect those, we will have to redesign, because now these have to interact with each other. So what will we do? We will re-architect those software so that they may work on a network or networks, and then they can talk to each other. So these are the 4 major reasons that due to which we say that we must change the legacy software whenever there are these 4 kinds of needs, right? Now as I talked about the web application, I said that now we have the website, web pages, right? So now in fact, like the older versions, the legacy softwares that were the standalone softwares, now we have a different kind of application, that is web application, for last 2 decades almost. So now in fact these applications have their own unique nature. How? Number 1, network intensiveness. In fact, when we have our software, our application on the web, on the internet, then definitely there are hundreds or thousands users that are trying to access that website. So in fact this program, this application would be network intensive. So we can see that a web application resides on a network and must serve the needs of a diverse community of clients. So many people are trying to access the data. That is why we say that it is network intensive. Then we have the concept of internet and intranet. I'll teach you, but you must know the difference between these. Internet is in fact the network of networks, like our network of IIUI is connected with the whole world, the other networks, but the intranet is within a network. When I tell you that you cannot move to the internet, you can only communicate with all the nodes inside the IIUI domain or IIUI network, then we call this kind of communication as network as intranet. But when we go beyond network to network, then it is internet. And you know that internet in fact is the abbreviation of internetworks, that is between the networks, and intranet is between one network inside a network. So now let's move to the next point, concurrency. You know, in fact, if we have a web application, then so many users will be trying to access that data simultaneously at the same time, because on a single computer only you are working. But when it is on a server, then in that case so many people are trying to access that data. So now check at the same time. So a large number of users may access the web app at one time, at the same time. So this is another different nature of the web apps, and it is controlled by the concurrency control techniques. You need not to learn it right now, but there are mechanisms that manage how the people who are trying to access the websites or the systems at the same time, how those will be managed, who will be preferred, whose request will be solved first, they will be logged or something. So there are so many things. So concurrency, then unpredictable load. In fact, if there is a single computer and a single program, there is no concept of unpredictable load. But when we put our application on a web server, then maybe our users cannot be predicted, that we will have 50,000 users, we will have 5,000 users. So the number of users in fact changes. If I tell you, say we have a news portal or a news server or a news website, and there is some issue somewhere in the world, then people log into that website, that news website. So maybe normally we are having 5,000 or 7,000 users per day. Maybe on that day we may have 1 million people, 10 lakh people on our site on one day. So this is the reason the number of users of the web app may vary by orders of magnitude from day to day. So this can increase, this can decrease depending upon the need, right? So we cannot predict performance. Now, if my website is too slow to provide the solution, somebody wants to get some data, somebody wants to get some lectures, but my website is too slow, it is not performing well, so in that case nobody would like to come to my website, right? So every website tries to provide the best performance. This is another quality of the web apps. If a web app user must wait too long, right? You want to download a movie clip and you are waiting for it and waiting for it, then you may decide to go elsewhere. You will say, okay, fine, I'll go to the other site and I will download that clip because it is taking too much time. And then availability. In fact, whenever there is something on a server, then it must always be available. You cannot say that it will work from 8 o'clock to 5 p.m. or 9 o'clock to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. No, it is not like this. When we have the web apps, these are being seen from the globe or all over the globe. It is not only in Pakistan. So maybe when we have night, then in Canada or America it is daytime, so they want to access that. So availability must be all the time, and that is why we say that when we have a web application, it must be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. All the time it must be available. Next quality is data driven. Normally we are there are services also on the web server, but at this time accessing data, we get the news in the form of movies, we get the dramas, we get the songs, everything. In fact, those are the text, image, sound, movie clip, everything. In fact, most of the time the websites are data driven. I again say that there are service providers that provide us some services. I told you in the last class that many websites provide us the service, like we can convert a document into PDF through a website online. So it is different, but normally the most of the websites are data driven. Then content sensitive. The one thing that is important for the web app is in fact the quality of data. You must be careful about what you are putting on your website, because that quality of data is important, and that particular thing, the content sensitive nature of web apps, make it particular that you must keep an eye on your data. There must not be something wrong, there must not be some misinformation, some wrong data. So that is again important. Next one is continuous evolution. Evolution means it will keep on growing, it will keep on changing. So in fact, normally when we make a website, we cannot lag behind our other counterparts or our other competitors. They are always trying to improve their websites. So that is what we are supposed to do, that whenever there is a new tool, whenever there is a new service, whenever there is a new operation, we must put it on our website, so that it must be continuously evolutioning. It must be in a process of evolution, right? So that is the reason it says that we must keep on updating it. Immediacy. Normally there is a right time to market your website, right? If you are in the market at the right time, so you will be the pioneer in that area. For example, I say that like Food Panda, like Kareem. In fact, you would have seen that these apps, these are not the websites, but these apps in fact took the market first. So now these are in fact the applications that are in fact the first application in their area, and they have targeted a lot of people. Now we have so many other services, so many other applications, but people are just using these, mostly the Food Panda and the Kareem and Uber, because they got used to it. So that is why in fact there is a concept of immediacy, that you will have to apply this, your website, your web application, with the best time when you will have to do it. Security. As we have so many people using the same web application, then there is a risk that somebody, some hacker or some other person who tries to breach our security, who tries to enter into our system, who tries to destroy our data. So now in fact security is an important feature or a function of web application that must be kept in the mind. Aesthetics. In fact, if your application, if your website, if your portal is not decent enough, is not good looking, is not something like that the people like the colors, the themes or anything, so your site must have a proper theme, proper color, balance of controls, everything, so that people may feel happy to come on your website. They must not feel what the garbage is in this website. I cannot find whatever I want to. So I don't want to come on this site. So your site must be, your application, web application must be very good in terms of the controls, in terms of the information you are providing, in terms of colors, themes, everything. If it is good, your website will be considered as aesthetically excellent website. Now, software engineering. We talked about the definition of software engineering, and now we will understand how we can work with it, right? A few simple realities to be recognized to build a software. Before we start building the software, we must understand these realities, that how we will proceed. So number one is understand the problem before you build a solution. That means if my teacher gives me an assignment, a very simple project, then what we do, we normally start understanding the issue, what our teacher wants from us, what he wants us to build. So this is the thing, that first of all understand the problem. So do not sit on the computer and start doing something. No, try to understand what is required. So different users of an application, so different requirements. For example, we want to make a website or some class management system for IIUI. So there would be students who will be using that class management system. There must be teachers who will be using that class management system. There would be staff, there would be admin. So there are so many different kind of users. So they all will have different kind of requirements. So what you need to learn is what are the requirements of the users and how. First of all, you will check what are the requirements of the students, then what are the requirements of the teacher, then what are the requirements of the staff, then what are the requirements of the officials. So in that way you try to understand the requirements of all the users or potential users who are supposed to use that software. Now we come to the design is a pivotal software engineering activity. When we understand the problem, then design is a very important activity that makes our software perfect, or it just spoils the software or the project. If you design it good according to the requirement, your software will be excellent and will be accepted by the user. But if you design it bad and you do not design it according to the requirement, then the software you will build will not be accepted by the users. It will be a flop software. So design must be good, appropriate. So if you have a good appropriate design, then you have a good appropriate solution. Sorry for this typo. Good appropriate solution. So you must rely on your design. You must just put your all focus on the design, so that you must have a better software. So both quality and maintainability are results of good design. So now, in fact, if you design it well and then you may make a software, then quality and maintainability will be easier. How? If my design is good, my software will have a good quality. And if my design is excellent, I have defined every module, every functionality in my design. Whenever I will have to maintain my software, I'll have to make changes in my software. In that case, it will be excellent, or it will be very easy to make those changes if I have a good design. If I have just randomly programmed that thing, there are no perfect diagrams, there is no perfect tables telling me about different features, then I will not be able to find out where I'll have to make the changes. So it will be a little bit difficult for me. So critical situations and a failure may cause irreversible loss. So we must design in such manner, if there is some issue, some problem in the software, then we must look at the design, and we must be able to make any change in the software and make it running again. So in fact, these 3 points, these simple realities lead to one conclusion: software in all of its forms and across all of its application domains should be engineered. Look, it is a systematic manner that we will move in. So we will understand, we will design, we will make it, then we will maintain it. So that is why it is software engineering. Now, software engineering definitions. There are so many definitions, but I just want to understand the basic definition and then we can move on. Software engineering is the establishment and use of sound engineering principles in order to obtain economically software that is reliable and work efficiently on real machines. So it is one definition that says, in fact, software engineering is a process in which we use the engineering principles, different guidelines, principles. Why to use those principles and guidelines? Just to obtain a software that is economical and that provides us all the functionality that we need. So software engineering is what? In fact, it is the use of sound engineering principles, or sound mean those principles that have been tested. So sound engineering principles to get a software that works on the real machine, and that software is economical and efficient. Then again, another version of the software engineering, the application of a systematic, disciplined, quantifiable approach to the development, operation and maintenance of software, that is the application of engineering to software. So the first thing is, in fact, we are going to apply some systematic, disciplined, quantifiable approach, some process, some mechanism that is systematic, that we will move in some particular direction, discipline again, that we have to do this thing first, then this thing, then first of all we'll understand the problem, then we will design it, then we will code it, then we'll test it. So in this way we will move to develop and then operate. So the first thing is we have to develop it, then it should run, and then when it is running there must be a need of change or there can be some error, and maintenance of the software. That is the application of engineering to software. We are applying engineering to the software. The study of approaches as in one. So this one is what? The different systematic, disciplined, quantifiable approaches. So we are using it, and plus we are studying these approaches. The approaches being used are being studied to improve those. So the key point is software in engineering encompasses a process. So we have a process, methods for managing and engineering software, and tools. So that means in fact software engineering is a subject that has some processes, methods for managing and engineering the software, making a software, testing a software, maintaining a software. So that is how we define the software engineering. There are hundreds of definitions, but these are the two that are in our literature, in our book, and I want you to understand these. So now in the next class we will start with the software process, and till then you will have to prepare till this point so that we may proceed. Thank you very much, and Allah Hafiz.